In two different communities, two entirely different areas of the Low Country, 3 teens died. Through the heartache of losing these young people, however, these two completely different communities did a very similar thing. They came together to help not only their close friends and loved ones, but to also uplift and support the families that lost their children. And that, the coming together in times of need, is exactly what a community is and always will be when it matters most.
What does South Carolina mean to you?
It means home and family. God brought my ancestors safely from England to establish homes in South Carolina on land given to them by the King of England.
The people, the food, our community is so great.
They settled in central South Carolina on farms, growing cotton, corn, peaches, and livestock. Families came together and formed communities, helping each other during hard times. South Carolina still has a God-fearing people who are working together to make the world a better place in which to live. South Carolina.
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
The Low Country.
This is what South Carolina means.
An event in a small town affects the entire community. No matter how close you may be to that situation, individual, or family, it always makes an impact. What's even harder to swallow is the fact that if it wasn't for COVID-19, this story might have ended differently. It started on April 17, 2020, just a month after COVID-19 began to affect every aspect of our lives. Kenneth, Kathy, and Caleb McElmore, two 16-year-old best friends, decided to go fishing one morning since we were released from school due to the virus. This was not an abnormal thing for these boys, as they always found time to spend together whenever possible. As they drove up to the fishing hole on the outskirts of Swansea, the truck went too far. In the passenger seat, Caleb broke his window and swam to the surface, looking everywhere for his friend, but he was nowhere to be seen. Kenneth, who was in the driver's seat, was caught by his seatbelt, and water had begun entering the vehicle. 20 minutes later, I and many others drove past this pond, wondering why police tape was set up, the coroner's car was present, and a familiar face was standing on the bank without his other half beside him. I was 14 and fully affected by the death of a member of my community, one that had classes with my brother, was an officer in a club I'm heavily involved in, the FFA, and a beloved friend to so many in my community. I had maybe spoken 5 words to this boy in my life, but the absence of him was definitely felt. The way I saw friends of mine and my brother fall apart is something I hope to never witness again. Looking back now, what I do hope to always see is the number of people who showed up for a family who had just lost everything. Losing a child or sibling is something I cannot fathom, but Swansea was there, providing support, ensuring the family was well fed as every Southern hospitality book were encouraged, and showing up to show support in every way possible. Now, every year we hold an annual memorial fishing tournament in honor of Kenneth. His family and best friend Caleb show up every year and take part. This past year, I was a part of planning and putting on this tournament. There was truly something special about being able to help remind our town of this special young man and continue his legacy by doing something he loved, surrounded by the community he loved. The community he loved included generations of people who attended our high school, most of which also were a part of Swansea FFA. His officer jacket is now hanging up for future generations living in Swansea to see, ensuring his imprint on this community will not be forgotten. Growing up in a small town creates a bond between not only neighbors, but people that you pass on the street or go to school with. Being from Swansea, South Carolina is something that I've always taken pride in. Although, for some reason, the more so-called natural outlook that I'm told to have is one where I wish to move away and start anew in a new town, county, or even state. I wouldn't leave this community for any circumstance, because we indeed have been through so much together in the past 17 years of my life, and I am proud to say that I, Charlotte Beth Burns, am from Swansea, South Carolina.
A few years after Swansea had recovered from that tragedy, another one was to be had. But this time, let's head to Summerville, South Carolina. It was a typical December for your average South Carolina family. Parents sat with children, simply enjoying the Christmas season as the cherished holiday came and passed. However, one household would have their festivities cut short just after Christmas. A small family consisting of the parents, 2 daughters, and a baseball-loving son who was a junior at Cane Bay High were struck by tragedy when that very son's life was cut short. He would remain 17 years old forever. Unaware of what happened, I woke up on one late December morning to see a slew of RIP and You Will Be Missed posts on social media. Upon a deeper dive into the situation, I was struck, not only by how sad it was, but also by how supportive everyone was being. His teammates, friends, and fellow students were emerging in a massive outpour of support. People swarmed in clouds of purple and number 11, his baseball jersey number, to remember him. Tributes were made, everyone was honoring him the best they could. The loss of a neighbor truly impacted everyone. This is what South Carolina is and was, a deeply interwoven community that is fully dedicated to respecting each and every member, especially in times of need. That is what South Carolina means to me. It is the community, the support, and the true emotion that we all feel for our neighbors and our friends and everyone who comes and goes in our lives. That is Southern hospitality. That is home. That is South Carolina.
When we were first formulating the big idea for this podcast, we wanted to focus on what makes us similar to form any sort of tribe possible. While we did this, it also showed how different we were at the same time. Thus, our podcast idea was born. Through the stories of 2 completely different communities, we see that even through diversity, these communities push through to provide comfort and support to those who needed it most. Differences didn't matter then. All that mattered was the fact that they were there for each other when it was needed.
There's no place better to live short of heaven.
So true.
That's it.